Today we're going to talk about every team's strength heading into the 2025 NRL season. We've done the weaknesses, now let's be positive and talk about the strengths. First up is going to be the West Tigers, who haven't had much positives or strengths to talk about over the last 3 years, but this year, the strength to me is their great recruitment and just the quality of player that they have attracted to the club. Bringing in guys like Jerome Luai, Terrell May, and Sunia Turuva are all fantastic signings, as well as Gerald Skelton. These guys have come from good systems, and as well, a guy like, especially Jerome Luai, in a really, really key position that is obviously going to be playing halfback for them, leading from the front, bringing in new attitudes and that sort of thing, a fresh flavour into the club. And not only is Jerome Luai a good on-field signing, he's also a great off-field signing in terms of just leading from the front, and yeah, pushing those standards and that sort of thing, because you don't win 4 comps in a row as a 5'8", and just being lazy and like not being able to hold yourself up to the highest esteem in the NRL and what the game has to offer. I feel like Terrell May is a good leader for the forwards as well, from what I've seen, and like a guy like Turuva and Skelton in the backline. Like, it just overall, I think the recruitment has definitely bumped them off the bottom of the ladder heading into the 2025 NRL season, which is a great thing for the Tigers. We go to the South Sydney Rabbitohs, where my biggest strength for them is just the fact they've got Wayne Bennett. The Wayne Bennett factor, obviously he's got a fair few players there to work his magic on, but I think if anyone can do it, it's Wayne Bennett. You also look at the Rabbitohs, like their top 30, it's a pretty strong squad. They've got a great 4-pack, good outside back, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be making the top 8. And I think Wayne Bennett's going to help calm the whole place down, get them back to playing footy, simplify everyone's roles and what they've got to do, and just get them back to enjoying their footy. And it's going to be a great thing for the Rabbitohs. And I expect, honestly, to see them playing September football this year, which is not bad considered our second last year. It's a bit of a turnaround, but it was only 3 seasons ago they made a prelim final under Wayne Bennett, and a grand final, sorry. So there's no reason why they can't be there again with a very similar roster with just a few fresh faces. Moving over to the Eels, I think their biggest strength from last year to this year is fresh faces and a fresh attitude as well. So he brought in a guy like Zach Lomax, who blossomed into one of the comp's best wingers, best outside backs last year. You also bring Addo Carr, who brings good energy and vibes to a club. And then Jason Riles, who is hungry. He's had his tutelage under Craig Bellamy for a fair few years now. And obviously he's taking a lot of those things that he learnt at the Storm and implementing them. Like I saw the Eels, their players were on a job site for a day or maybe even a week throughout this preseason, where it's like sort of keep yourself humble, make yourself appreciate and have some gratitude for the fact you are a rugby league player. And I just think those, like, yes, I don't agree with Brad Arthur being sacked when he was. And I think a lot of those players sort of like took that very personally, and they went a bit of a slide last year. But bringing in Jason Riles, a new attitude, new ways of going about things, new way of looking at footy is going to be massive for the Eels, and hopefully for them, anyway, it's going to be a turning point for them this year in the club, and hopefully in the next few years for them, they can break their hoodoo of not winning premiership in forever. Then we go to the Gold Coast Titans, where I've got their 4-pack as their strength. Like, it's actually honestly stacked. I was looking at it the other day, making my best 17 for the Titans, and there's some really key guys that have to miss out. So obviously you got Tino coming back, and then you got RCG as well there. So like, either way, you're going to have either Tino, which you're not, Tino, RCG, or Fodawaker on the bench. That's 3 football players there, like 3 quality front rowers there. One of them's got to be on the bench. That shows you the levels of their 4-pack this year. I guess you could play Tino at 13, but I think that would personally be a waste. And you've obviously got David Fifita, who we know how good he can be. Bo Firma, who we've seen be on the fringe of the Queensland side. They've got a decent backline. It's probably not one of the better ones in the competition, the Titans, but their 4-pack, he's going to mix it with the big dogs, honestly, this year. It could win them a fair few games, just off the back of being able to roll through teams. So we'll see how they go, the Titans, but for me, their 4-pack is definitely their biggest strength. Then we go to the Warriors. The biggest strength, I think, heading into this season is they've brought in a really good leader in James Fisher-Harris, and they've got strong leadership throughout it with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and that sort of thing as well. Kurt Capewell has been around the block. Obviously, losing Tom Johnson, you do lose a little bit of that leadership. However, I think when you bring in a guy like James Fisher-Harris, who's been there and done it, he sort of, when the going gets tough with the Warriors, because it's a rugby league, like NRL season, every single team's going to go through ups and downs and trials and tribulations. I think he's going to be able to sort of get the boys up and say, no, righto, all right, this is when like going gets tough. This is where comps are won. This is where we make the finals. This is where we sort of have that Warriors identity of just being a really tough, gritty side, which is the identity that's starting to build now. Obviously, they've sort of been the flashy flair Kiwis for a fair little while, but now we're starting to like realize that like they're putting their defense first. So I think that like that's their biggest strength going to be in terms of like it's going to be an attitude adjustment heading into the 2025 NRL season. I think it's going to be the Warriors' best strength throughout the season. Then we go to the Brisbane Broncos. Now, say what you want about the 2024 season, their biggest strength still remains the same, and that's because they have a quality and young roster. I know that their halves going to be Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds, and that doesn't scream young, but you've also got Reece Walsh, who's like 22. Selwyn Cobbo, all these guys are sort of like 26 or below. Selwyn Cobbo, you've also got Ezra Mam, though, like, depending on his situation. Payne Haas is still young as. Jordan Ricky, Pia Kura. Like, the core of the group is still young as anything. So I think that like Michael Maguire as well, instilling a bit of toughness, a bit of grittiness, some desire into these quality young players is going to be the great best thing for them. I think they honestly, they should win a competition within the next 2 or 3 years. Whether it's this year, I'm not too sure, but like they've got, like, the blueprint is there. They just need to just go and just construct it. That's all there is now for the Broncos. As long as these quality guys can buy in, then I see absolutely no reason why the Broncos can't fulfill their potential of this squad, because it is, on paper, it is amazing. Now, for the St. George Illawarra Dragons, my biggest strength for them has been the gained experience they've got for from the 2024 season, but also the players they've brought in for the 2025 NRL season. So you got Gutho, Val Holmes, and Damien Cook, which off the top of my head is probably like 700 first grade games of experience they've brought in there. You've also got a whole crop of these players, never really even been close to the top 8. They've sort of always finished around the bottom 4. They were 1 game away from the top 8 last year, with 3 games to go. But like, this group now knows where they went wrong and what they've got to be able to do in future seasons if they find themselves in that same situation. You've also got guys, Gutherson's played a grand final, played Origin. Val Holmes has won a grand final, played Origin. Damien Cook has played in the grand final, played Origin. Like, all these guys that have sort of been there, done that. They get it. Like, the Dragons have one of the more inexperienced and younger rosters within the whole comp. So you bring in these guys who are on that 30-year-old mark, like being around the block, can show and really instill some NRL standards into the training, like, and that sort of thing, into even the game day prep for these youngsters to sort of like learn off and pick their brains. So I think that's like the biggest strength for the Dragons there, is that they've got these guys that are gonna like sort of hold the fort down and create some stability until the younger guys are ready to take over. And I think it's going to be a great thing for the Dragons in like the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Obviously those guys won't be playing by then, like the Guthos, Holmes and Cook. They won't be around in 5 years time, but there's certainly a lot of players at the club who hopefully, fingers crossed, will be for the Dragons, because geez, they've got some quality coming through. Then at the Raiders, my big strength for them this year is they've got a good mix of young players and old players as well. Like, you've got a really young, inexperienced spine to some degree in terms of your KO Weeks, your Ethan Strange, that sort of thing as well. But like, on the vice versa of that, like, you've got Jamal Fogarty as your halfback, but you've also got Ethan Sanders waiting in the wings. Like, that good mix of young and old. Even like in the 4-pack, Tarpanate and Papali'i have been around for forever, but you got Trey Mooney coming through. There's a bunch of really good young guys coming through actually at the Raiders. Like, their squad is a perfect balance of like that young X factor exuberance and that tough, gritty, like just getting the job done kind of style team. People always write off the Raiders. I think they're the second favourite for the Wooden Spoon after the Dragons. And I look at the squad on paper and I just sort of think, like, how? It's Ricky Stewart. They've got a really good 4-pack. They've got like that exciting sort of thing. Like, Chevy Stewart is one of the most highly touted youngsters coming through that I've seen in a fair while. And in my best 17 for the Raiders, he couldn't even crack it. That sort of shows that the quality and just the excitement around the Raiders. I think this is one of those teams that they probably could make the finals. But going into the 2025 NRL season, there's probably like 2 or 3 teams that I look at and go, I don't think they're going to make the finals. So, which is exciting for the NRL. Very hard for me to make my ladder prediction. But yeah, I think the Raiders will be there or thereabouts once again, because of just that sort of the hunger and the desire of the young players and the old hard heads that they've got in that system, as well as just Ricky Stewart being a very good coach and getting the best out of his players. Then we go over to the Newcastle Knights. Their big strength is just the KP factor. Like, he is so good when he's on form. Attacking wise, like, he just he can suck in 3-4 defenders, and it's literally not an issue for him. Like he can get like sort of targeted in attack and try to rush in decisions, but bro, just like his composure is unbelievable. And I think like when he's a similar player kind of like to a Tommy Turbo, when KP's on form, everyone else is as well. Like he makes other players around him better, which is such a compliment to his game. But like he also just, whenever he gets the ball, you watch the defense. I don't care how good a defender you are. When KP's got the ball, you're a bit worried. And it just puts that indecision, that second guessing in the mind. Players react slower, and he sets up tries more often than not. And I think, yeah, if Kalen Ponga can have another really good run, especially towards the back end of the season, the Knights will probably be in the finals again. Because he's taken them to the finals 2 years in a row. Then we go to Manly, where it's a very similar strength here, and it's their star power. Like, they've got a decent roster on paper. Their fullback's okay, but you got your Tommy Turbos, who can just turn it on and be the best player in the world, like, and it's not even close. Like Daly Cherry Evans, who's a star, and he's got so much experience, and his rugby league mind is just amazing. So I think like when you got those two there, like as long as those two are on the field, Manly are going to be confident they can win the game, which is a massive thing. Yeah, honestly, that's pretty much all I got to say about like Manly. Like their backline as well is a really good strength, I suppose. Like you've got Jason Saab, who's still developing. Lehigh Hopper Whitey looks like he's going to be fantastic, and you got Tolu Collar and Ruben Garrick in the centers is great. Like the fact that Moses Sully is another club now because these guys are so good. You've also got Faialo'o, I think it might be. I absolutely butchered that pronunciation, but he's a gun in New South Wales Cup. Like played a couple games last year. He can't even get a run. Like it's just their backline is like Tommy Talau was great last year, and I haven't got him in my best 17. So maybe their backline as well is a big strength for them. Then we go over to the Bulldogs, where I've got their defensive structure as their biggest strength, because we see time and time again these teams come up and then fall off. Like you got the Warriors from 2023, the Cowboys as well, even teams like the Rabbitohs and the Eels that fell off last year. Like these teams that rise and fall, and it's just part of it's natural. It's part of the ebbs and flows of the NRL. But I think with the Bulldogs, what's a bit different with them is the fact that it's like they were the second best defensive team last year in the second year of this defensive structure. So it's obviously like teams are going to study it, obviously, right? Like Bulldogs come from nowhere, playing a different style of footy. It's hard for clubs who haven't been able to watch video and whatnot. They'd be like, all right, what's going on midway through the season? Obviously, with the off season, a lot of time and effort and everything's going to be put into that, what's happening. But Cameron Ciraldo's smart. He's not going to just like leave it as it is. There's going to be little tweaks and whatnot and adjustments. But I think the attitude and the defensive structure and the defensive system that they've got at the Bulldogs is like well, second to one, the Panthers. Like they always, like, and it's the age-old thing, right? Defense, like attack wins your games, defense wins your comps. When there's tight games, the Bulldogs are going to back themselves. If the Bulldogs are happy to win 8-6, obviously they love winning 40-6. Everyone does, but when the game's in a grind, they're not too stressed. They just stick to their processes and that sort of thing, and it gets them through. And I think that's going to be a great asset again for them in 2025. The Cowboys got X factor in key positions as their strength heading into 2025. Like you got your Scotty Drinkwater at fullback, we did at 6, and Reece Robson at 9. Those three guys can just cut open a game at any point. And I think it's one of those things against the Cowboys, you can never really be sure that you won the game until the 80 minutes is up or you're ahead by 20, which doesn't often happen with the Cowboys. So I think like with those guys, and especially Tommy Dearden, I suppose all of them really, like heading into this season, like, they just get that little extra bit of experience, learning a bit more, but Tommy Dearden especially is just becoming such a star. I think that Kangaroos camp as well would have been great for his game, and just slice and dice in those defensive lines. I feel like the Cowboys are one of those sort of underdog teams heading into 2025. No one's really talking about them. It's their last year with Reece Robson, so like with a really good spine. So we'll have to wait and see how the Cowboys go, but I'm excited to watch them play, honestly. So yeah, for me, like the X factor, they can cut you up all over the park. Even a guy like Jeremiah Nanai, Hillam Lukey as well, like, and even Ruben Cotter. Like they're a very explosive, exciting team. Then we got the Roosters. Funny because they've lost a lot of it, but my strength to them is they've got experience in all areas, all across the park. Obviously, you got your James Tedesco, even like your Daniel Tupous, Chad Townsend coming in, wealth of experience. But even guys like your Connor Watsons, Angus Crichtons, Victor Radleys, Nat Butcher, like they've been around for forever. Lindsay Collins, they've got so much experience, and yes, they've got a crop of young kids coming through, but they've got guys that like lean on that have played 150, 200, 250 NRL games. So it's not as if they're just going in and it's just a bunch of rookies coming in and the Roosters are stuffed. I still think, like, yes, they lost a lot of good players, but Sam Walker and Brandon Smith will be back at the midway point of the year, like around 10, 11, 12. So there's no reason why the Roosters still won't be there or thereabouts once like everyone's back and healthy. Obviously, like in my best 17 for the Roosters, I've got Billy Smith in one of the centre spots, which he's a great player, but his fitness is there to be questioned. Their depth's going to be questioned a little bit this year because they have lost so much like star player power and potential and haven't brought in all too much. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Roosters go in 2025. But like, yeah, there's so many guys there with just a wealth of experience and like seasoned first graders that I think they'll be honestly fine. Then we got the Cronulla Sharks. My strength for them is the familiarity. Like the team's essentially still been the same for the last 3 years, right? Like obviously Braden Trindle came in and was a regular first grader last year as opposed to Matt Moylan. This year bringing Adam Fanua-Blake, and I think they've just been like chipping away. They've got their core group. Like your Nico Hineses, your McInneses, your Brayleys, your Kennedys, your like Katoa Mulatalo, all like Nikora, all these kind of guys, right? But you bring in these little pieces every now and then, just get a little bit better, edge a little bit more. They got to a prelim last year. They've got the monkey off the back of not being able to get a finals win. All these sort of things. Like they can back themselves now. I really feel like this year is the year for the Sharks. If they're going to do something special, it's this year. Because otherwise, like there's a few guys off contract there, and you got to try new things. You can't, like, the definition of insanity is try attempting the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If the Sharks stick by this core group of players in 3 or 4 years' time, then look, they're probably going a little bit insane. But I think Craig Fitzgibbon likes what he sees with this group, and they're just adding a little bit extra every single year. And that familiarity, being able to trust those guys around you, is going to be great in those key moments. And that's why I'm excited about the Sharks in 2025. Then we go to the Panthers. Their biggest strength is the fact they've won 4 comps in a row. They know how to do it. It also could be a bit of a weakness for them because, like, how can he like still get that fire? But again, like the Sharks would have just said, like they're losing pieces every year, but also obviously adding as well. Like you've got Blaze Talangi's going to be coming in there hungry to win comps. The McLean brothers are ready to go. Like they're fired up. Liam Henry and Lindsay Smith are ready to play a bit more of a role. But like they've just got that incredible system where they're just developing all these guys, like just coming through the ranks. And they're just so ready to go to fill in and play for the Panthers and win comps, and they're hungry. Like they want to build a dynasty. They want to be the best team ever, undisputed. So I think like the fact that they just know how to win. They're a bunch of winners. That's my biggest strength for them. Then the Storm. I mean, you can find strengths across the park for them, but for me, it's their star-studded spine. They've got the best spine in the comp, in my opinion. So you got your Pappenhausen, Munster, Hughes, Grant, Wishart off the bench. You can fill in anywhere. You've also got Pezzett waiting in the wings. Like their depth as well, and the quality of their spine is insane. But I think you put like piece it all together. I feel like for me anyway, the Storm are the favourites to win the comp this year. Like the Panthers have got a little on paper anyway, they've regressed. The Storm on paper have improved. So I feel like the Storm are the team to beat. And when you've got like those 4 guys on the park at any one time, like, man, good luck to any team trying to beat that. That's like an insane side. And I think they're hungry to go win themselves another premiership. The Storm, it's been 5 years coming this year, which is probably one of the biggest droughts in Storm history, which is such an insane thing to say. So there we have it. That is my biggest strength for every single club heading into the 2025 season. Let me know in the comments what you think your club's biggest strength is, whether you agree with what I said, whether you disagree. All those things. Let's have a nice, healthy debate in the comments. But anyway, I can tell you one thing. I'm fired up and I'm ready for the 2025 season. So drop a subscribe if you are as well. Remember to Scotty, drink your water, and Bradman, do your best.